Ripple's even said that if the SEC wants to dig up some more of this dirt, they need to file a separate lawsuit and start this whole thing over again. Yeah. I don't think Ripple obviously doesn't want that to happen, but I think they're just in some ways calling the SEC's bluff. And in many ways, the SEC continues to lose in the different cases that they're in. So I don't know. It doesn't appear the case is going to get any stronger for the SEC against Ripple.
Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast. We believe the best financial advice should always be conflict-free. I'm your host, Casey Smith. Guiding you to financial freedom today is my co-host, Robert Swarthout, founder, CEO, and portfolio manager of Teton Crypto Capital. Hey, Robert.
Good morning.
So I think most of you figured out by now, Robert and I are also pretty good friends, and we do things together outside the podcast. And
yeah.
We've met each other through our college, Barry College, actually. Robert's on the board of Barry, and he does good work there. But also, Robert has a new job, first officer of Wiser One.
Yes. I'm a professional checklist reader.
So we've taken a few trips. We went down to Ocala, Florida, a couple of weeks ago, and basically,
it was
the whole thing was just kind of like, I don't know, good thing, bad thing, good thing gone bad, or I don't know, making lemonade out of lemons. I don't know how we
went to Ocala for lunch. I think is the easy way to describe it.
So Robert's wife is like, "Hey, Casey." So Robert's in Horse World. We're in Horse World, but they're Western writers. We're English writers, and Tessa sends me this information about this jumper show, and I read about it. It's, it looks like it's on Sunday too. Sunday must be the final day. Yeah. Actually, it all finished on Saturday. Right. Which we couldn't get to.
Right.
We couldn't get there on Saturday. So we go down there, and I'm thinking, Tessa just wants to see
like the grand finale.
The grand finale, right? Yeah. And so what it was there was a shorter show on that Sunday.
Basically an hour.
But everyone had basically cleared out. There was Wheels Up was there with the VIP tents. I mean, but it was all gone. Like it was all broken down. I'm like, what is going on? And so Tessa says, "Hey, let's get some lunch."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I said, "Tessa, I think it's starting right now." She's like, "Oh no, it goes till 7:00 tonight." Right. I'm like, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
But we don't argue with Tessa. So we go and sit down. Yeah. We have this long lunch. There's Robert and his wife at Tessa. My daughter Caitlin's with us. And we sit there and eat. We basically ate lunch through the entire show.
Right. Yeah, we get outside and watch maybe 10 or 15 minutes of it.
We go outside, and they're already did their jump off, and they're getting awards. Right, and we're like, what is this? I don't understand.
Yeah. My first experience at an English show was that. So right. Apparently they're all very short, and I don't understand why it takes them all weekend to do them.
But anyway, going down there, we flew in the Cessna 182, and so I told Robert how to read a checklist Delta style. So we read through the checklist, and as I'm going down there, it's like a perfectly smooth flight. Yep. But halfway through, I'm checking the weather up ahead, and the wind forecast had kicked up, and I didn't say anything to anybody because I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be a little rough."
Yeah.
And as soon as we dropped below the cloud deck, which is like 3,000 feet, we're shooting the approach into Ocala, and it's just like the whole bottom just falls out for the last 5 minutes of the flight. So much so, my daughter, the next weekend, we went down to Hilton Head.
Yeah.
She chose to ride with my wife because my wife does not fly in small airplanes. So she has a choice. She could ride with mom, or she could ride with me.
Right.
I was going down later in the afternoon, and Caitlin's like, no, I'm going with mom.
Yeah. And that was Tessa's first experience. Well, she had been in when she was a kid,
planes, yeah.
But I don't think with that kind of turbulence and
she handled it like a pro.
Yeah, she did good. But it was, turbulent, and then, apparently I only can fly with you when it's turbulence. So
I know, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping we're going this weekend to the Kentucky 3-day up in Lexington. Yeah. So I'm hoping that smoother air will find us.
Yeah. I guess does warmer air make it smoother?
Well, it depends on where the warm starts. If it's on the ground and moves up, that's not so good.
Okay. Well,
just hope for a temperature inversion. Maybe.
Okay. Gotcha.
Maybe that'll have smoother air there. Anyway, let's hop into today's topic. Is Bitcoin more than digital gold? We'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin Halving.
Yes.
Halving. Halving.
Yeah, some people call it the halving. Some people call it the halvening. But at the end of the day, it's an event that happens approximately every 4 years in Bitcoin. We've gone through 4 of these. We have 28 more to go. So we will not we will not be alive for all of them.
What is this?
Yes.
Because to me, as a stock guy, I think, that means it's splitting. But it's not splitting.
Incorrect. What that means in the Bitcoin context is every 4 years, the reward for each block that is mined by the miners, the reward is cut in half. So on a daily basis, all the blocks were accounting prior to April the 19th, were accounting for about 900 Bitcoin being created each day. Went to 450. In 2028, it'll go to 225 and kind of all the way down to functionally zero. The last new Bitcoin will be mined in the year 2140. So we're good ways out from that. And that's kind of the joke. We got 20 more.
Maybe someone will keep the podcast going, and we'll talk about that.
That'll be episode like 10,000.
Right.
Yes. But it's it's an event that typically the crypto community, especially the Bitcoin community, look forward to each year. If you kind of think about it, it's like, why is it happening? It's built into the code. It's not like they choose to do it each time. We know.
So it was designed to do this.
Designed to do it. You know exactly which block, because all the blocks are numbered. They're sequential. You know which blocks it's going to happen at. And, the miners functionally are doing the same amount of work now than they were a week ago before the halving to earn half as much, if you want to think about it that way, or they're having to buy twice as much hardware to get the same amount they used to get in Bitcoin. It kind of, in some ways, promotes the arms race that is the mining hardware, but also in an inverted way, it is inflationary to the price of Bitcoin, because the miners they're unlikely to go buy double the hardware, right? Immediately. Right. So they want to it doesn't happen immediately. But if you look at 1 month out from Bitcoin halvings, the price is not always up. Sometimes it's down 10%. 4 data points here. But if you look out, a year from then, it's not financial advice, but the price is usually up over 100%. So you start
from the time that
from the halving event.
So basically, it's its own way of promoting price support.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So in the crypto winter, when we started doing all these little crypto podcasts, it was halving then too, right?
The last one was 2020, and
so that was before then.
That was right in the middle of COVID, so that would have been May of 2020. The price of Bitcoin prior to the halving was right at 10,000.
Okay,
and then not immediately, but by the end of the year, I think it was like at 30 something. So it ran. Again, it's not the month after. You kind of are looking out, trying to have a little bit longer view.
Right.
I think actually a year out from the halving, so it would have been May of 21. That's when, certainly in a bull market, it was up to 50,000. So it was up 500%.
Yeah. But then it came back down.
It came back down.
And now we're at around 70.
We are at 66. We've been all the way up to 74 or 73.
Yeah.
In my opinion, largely due to the Bitcoin ETFs, which we are not talking about today. We do not have in our notes. We're not Bitcoin ETF podcast.
Bitcoin ETFs have dominated our conversations even internally here for the last few weeks. So I'm happy to take a break from talking about Bitcoin ETFs.
So anyways, it's, it marks part of a bit of typically the beginning of a bull cycle, or not the beginning, but like the early parts of.
Yeah.
And, it appears that this may be holding true again. So
let's talk about, is Bitcoin more than digital gold? So this is going to get into the weeds a little bit.
Yes.
Let's talk about NFTs just for a second.
Yes. So in NFT, we've talked about this in the past. It is almost always been in the context of NFTs on Ethereum, another blockchain. But NFTs can be basically anything. It's a digital representation of something. Sometimes it is of a JPEG, so it's not physical, but an NFT could even be something physical, like a house deed. We've kind of gone over this in many different podcasts about the time everyone's talking about how do they make their own NFTs is probably about the time you should be selling any NFT you have, because that might be marking the top.
That's true.
But so NFTs, that was the summer of 2021. the DeFi summer of crypto. NFTs
Right.
were going crazy. People buying, the famous ones were the board yacht ape clubs.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you actually, they were going for hundreds of $1,000s. You got access to a yacht. Like it was craziness, right? I guess maybe normal for crypto, but crazy for the rest of the world.
A virtual yacht.
A physical yacht.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because somebody had one. I don't know if it was where the exact yacht came into the picture, but it definitely,
Okay.
I don't know if it still exists or if they sold it. Like there's ongoing
crazy.
costs there that
Right.
have to be dealt with. But anyways, so how does this relate to Bitcoin? So when the fundamental part of Bitcoin is this, the smallest piece of a Bitcoin is called a Satoshi. So to the right,
fractional share
a
of a
fraction.
Bitcoin.
Yeah. So to the right of the decimal place, you got a bunch of zeros and you got a 1. It's around 1/millionth of a Bitcoin. Again, referred to as a Satoshi. Each of those Satoshis functionally have what you might think of as a serial number. Like they all can be identified separately because when they were mined with, all the things about them. That's not always the case in all blockchains. Sometimes they're just numbers.
Yeah.
In this case, they're a little more specific. When those are created or mined, you can inscribe them, functionally write data into them.
Okay.
A small amount of data, anything you want. So this is I'm kind of thinking of it as the 2024 version of NFTs for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
This has always been a thing that could have happened, but now people are basically like, oh, I can write a small little GIF or JPEG as data into there and creating an NFT. It's like a poor man's NFT, except they're really expensive.
Why can you only do this with Satoshis and not with a full Bitcoin?
Well, a full Bitcoin is just the summation of 1 million Satoshis.
Okay.
Again, your wallet's going to show you have a balance of whatever.
Yeah.
Whether it's greater than 1 or less than 1 Bitcoin, it doesn't matter. It's just a number in that case. But people are basically writing the data into these quote unquote block of a Bitcoin, and people are paying high fees for this. So like hundreds of dollars to be able to even write this in there. There's not like this ecosystem for marketplaces yet. It's just, maybe it becomes the thing.
Yeah. Your grandparents aren't doing this.
I'm not doing this.
Right.
I mean, NFTs are not been a thing that I've been terribly interested in, but I don't know anybody doing this. I just have been reading about it.
Yeah.
Firsthand know anybody doing this. So it's just interesting to kind of see, is this going to become a thing? I don't think so. I think once the price starts appreciating Bitcoin, this becomes yesterday's news, and we kind of move on. I think this is a bit of a distraction right now.
It's kind of like Bitcoin runs on blockchain.
Oh, correct.
Right.
On its blockchain.
On its blockchain. But it's kind of like you're just attaching something to that chain.
Yeah. You could think of it as like each Satoshi is a piece of paper, and you only can fit so much data on that piece. You only can fit so many words, and that's kind of, they're writing a bunch of words on a piece of paper.
Okay.
So I don't know. It's there is some interest in the Bitcoin community to what they call have side chains or L2s. So basically they help run in parallel to the Bitcoin network to help do more transactions or whatever the use case is. Bitcoin doesn't have any of those right now. Ethereum has a ton of them. That's in some ways why you might contribute some of the Ethereum success to it. I don't know. I've always said the Bitcoin community can't agree on anything, and I'm going to hold true to that until I'm proven wrong.
Are you curious why annuities keep coming up as a potential investment option? People are often told that annuities can effectively mitigate investment risks and help secure their financial future. However, annuities often benefit the salesperson and might not be the best choice for you as a consumer. To learn more about the various types of annuities, the negatives of owning them, and better investment alternatives, we have a free ebook on our website just for you. To download our ebook, Buyer Beware, Why Do They Keep Trying to Sell You That Annuity? Simply click the link in the episode notes or visit wiserinvestor.com/guides. Now let's get back to the episode.
Let's talk about the SEC versus Ripple. So you think all this stuff is done. This is old news. But I guess the new news is they still have to come to a...
Well, they're in the remedies portion of the case. So
I was going to say settlement, but that's probably a better word. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a settlement can happen at any time to end the case, but that is not what they're, at least my understanding is not what they're negotiating currently. So it's a quick recap.
So Ripple was wrong and in some cases has a judgment against it. Right.
Well, the judge ruled on a lot of things in January 13th, July 13th of last year. Majority of the case kind of was decided then. What they're doing now is there was some cases where the judge said Ripple did do institutional sales, and they might, if you squint at them, I'm paraphrasing, if you squint at them, they might look like security transactions. And the SEC is like, oh yes, totally. I mean, all of them. Like, I mean, you have the two extremes here, right?
Right.
So a little over a month ago, the SEC. So again, they're in the remedies portion of this. The SEC basically said Ripple needs to pay $1.9 billion with a B dollars in remedies in this case. So it's between disgorgement, interest on the disgorgement number, and then a penalty number on top of that. Just like it's gigantic number, right?
Right.
And at the time, so 1.9 billion. The most that Ripple ever sold, according to the court documents, is 1.3 billion. So it's like higher than that. If you kind of go back and look at some other stuff, other crypto cases where the SEC has kind of gotten some kind of penalties or money back out of, it ranges from anywhere from 1 to 75% of the original number, not 300% of the. So it's just the SEC kind of like maybe this isn't a negotiating style. I don't know. It just seems kind of crazy. So that was a month ago. And then as of yesterday, Ripple filed their reply to that, basically their side of the story, and said that, we think some of this other new information the SEC is trying to bring in. The SEC is, in my opinion, trying to be a little slimy. Like, discovery's been done for a year at this point. They're bringing new facts in, and they're trying to bring in new expert. Like, I think the judge will throw that part out personally, but Ripple basically came back in. Their numbers were redacted as far as I could tell. But if you look at the number of characters that were redacted in the black boxes, it looks like Ripple's saying that they probably should call it $10 million with an M. So the opposite end of the spectrum.
Right.
And I, from everything that I've read, different attorneys on Twitter, it looks like most people are in agreement that Ripple's numbers can be far more correct than the SEC's number of, with a B. I think that is there appeal coming? I don't know. Like, Ripple's even said that if the SEC wants to dig up some more of this dirt, they need to file a separate lawsuit and start this whole thing over again. Yeah. I don't think Ripple obviously doesn't want that to happen, but I think they're just in some ways calling the SEC's bluff. In many ways, the SEC continues to lose in the different cases that they're in. So I don't know. It doesn't appear the case is going to get any stronger for the SEC against Ripple. And at the end of the day,
how is this affecting Ripple now? Because there wasn't really a huge price bump after.
Well, Ripple, the company, XRP, the token.
Yeah.
So the whole market's down. I mean, XRP today is 54 cents. It was up at 70 cents on the market when Bitcoin was, 74,000.
The lawsuit happened though, it was around 18. So that's still.
It fell. Yeah. It fell 50% in like 3 days. So,
but the use of Ripple was so promising. How does that?
I would say, so basically all of their business with their software products that use XRP is outside the US. So, SEC can't do anything about that. Or nor should they, even if it was in the US, in my opinion. Their business is growing super strong. They do acquisitions. They announced that they're soon going to be launching a stable coin.
Can you buy Ripple now on Coinbase?
Well, XRP.
I'm sorry,
yes.
XRP.
Yes, you can buy.
So it's tradable again because it was taken off for a while.
It was taken off for a lot of places except for Uphold. That all came back within probably a month or two of the last July. But yeah, you're left with a market that still has got some uncertainty around it, even though if you listen to Ripple's marketing, everything's cleared up, right?
Right.
And for the most part, that's true. But there's still the overhang of this case. And is there going to be an appeal? Yeah. Even if there is an appeal, the time it actually takes to get to it, you're at the tail end of 2025. Like, I don't know. My gut tells me we have clearer and smarter heads prevailing at the SEC by then. Because Gensler, Biden would have to be reelected for Gensler to have any chance of staying.
Well, I was about to say, do you see how do you see that going forward? Do you see a more friendly crypto chair coming in at some point, or do you think it's just going to be the same old? Same old, because these are. I'm not gonna say these guys. These guys are smart guys.
Gensler's, he was the youngest partner at Goldman Sachs. Like, he's a smart dude.
Yeah. But they're also, I don't know how much like forward thinking they are.
Yeah, it's, I'll say this be very delicate. Gensler is very educated on crypto. He taught crypto classes at MIT.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
What he spoke and the words that came out of his mouth at MIT could not be anything more different than they are today when he talks about crypto.
But it makes you wonder who's really controlling.
Right. I mean, he is not in control. He is executing a strategy that, I don't know if he dreamt it up or someone dreamt it up for him, but it is pretty crazy. So to answer your question, I hesitate to say that it couldn't get any more worse, because I think things always can get more worse than you can imagine. But it seems pretty extreme right now.
The people that you think would be most concerned about this would be in the Treasury.
Yes, and they have slowly become more open and talking about stablecoins. And Yellen recently, I think in the last month or two, said that there needs to be stablecoin regulation. So it's starting to get nudged in that way. We just need Larry to want stablecoin legislation, and we will get it. Wink, wink. So it's a, I don't know, Senator Loomis from Wyoming and Gillibrand, I think from New York, reintroduced their stablecoin bill. They've been on this for probably 2 years now.
Yeah.
They're, each revision gets longer. I mean, bills never are short, but it's, we're in a session of Congress that probably doesn't get much done because of the election cycle we're in.
Right.
But there is some rumor that potentially the stablecoin thing could be attached. In some ways, it might be viewed as pork to a bill. Apparently, the FAA has to get reauthorized at some point before the election, so that likely will happen.
Right. So
maybe it kind of gets tagged along on that. And there's one other one that some other agency that has to be reauthorized. But I don't know. It's I'm hopeful that we've this feels like the darkest hour, right? Or we have maybe slightly come through that, and we're starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel of sorts. And maybe that is a new chairman. What's interesting, so it's some people don't know, is there's 5 chairs of the SEC. Chairman is the Gensler. He is basically the 5th.
Okay.
That's the appointed one, and they're actually all appointed, but so it's a five person vote, right? Whenever they decide to do something, it's largely been 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, and Gensler being the 5th, being a Democrat appointee. Obviously, if a Democrat wins the election, say Biden wins again, he likely will reappoint, or actually Gensler won't leave, because his term would run into the next Republican, but typically they leave on the same cycles.
Right.
But what is off cycle is the other chairs. So they are appointed and approved by the Senate. So, the Senate is Democrat leaning right now, but Crenshaw is due to have her term expire in June, I believe. And she would have to be either reappointed or a new one would come along. And I'm being hopeful here. She is anti-crypto. I would love to see her leave personally. If she is replaced by somebody, and it would be the Senate deciding that, voting on it at least. There are certainly, it's not like Republicans and Democrats are for or against crypto, right? I mean, it's kind of an age thing more than anything else. My hope is a Democrat-leaning Senate that has enough crypto forward-thinking senators would help get a better chair in there. And granted, the SEC is not all about crypto. I get it.
Yeah.
But if I had my, if I could put my hands on that process and be able to kind of manipulate it, I would hope for that. We'll see. June the 5th is her date. So it's we'll see. It'll be an interesting summer. Obviously in the heat of what will be the startup of the presidential season there.
Right.
So time will tell.
IRS has issued a new 1099-DA digital assets.
Yeah.
So even the IRS is getting ready for more and more crypto to be traded.
Yeah.
Looking at the draft of the form, it's very interesting. It looks pretty much the same until you get to the third block, which is not very far in, but it has broker type involved in transaction, a kiosk operator, digital asset payment processor, hosted wallet provider, or unhosted wallet provider, or other. And now when I saw that, I was like, okay, most people filling out this form are going to be out. So therefore, our CPAs are going to have to get on top of digital assets. They're going to have to understand how this stuff works. Most of them do not.
Right. I mean, most of them don't even understand crypto, period.
Right.
And then like you start using these terms and you might as well just be talking in a foreign language that they don't understand. There is some discontent in the crypto community around this because this is the first official draft is my understanding, but there's some conversations that were had last year around kind of what became this draft, and some feedback was given around, for instance, the unhosted wallet provider.
Yeah.
And how they're kind of treating that as if it's a broker, like in the traditional sense, which it is not even the case.
There's no one there to provide you your cost basis. Right?
Correct. So I admittedly, I'm a little concerned with this form because I run a server that does stuff on the XRP network. I am a validator, so I receive transactions. I help validate them on the network. Not me. My machine does. Right. And at the end of the day, like this could make it where I would have to do reporting on these transactions. I don't know who they are. I don't really care who they are. I'm just part of the network.
Yeah.
So like that is something that if this goes through as is, big problem. I don't think that it'll make it there.
Right.
Heck, they could also decide that, this has 2025 on the top of it, that it's not even ready for 2025.
It says a QSPIT number too. I didn't think cryptos had their own QSPIT number.
Right. So it's like they took a template and they just been changing some words on it maybe here.
Yeah.
And the closest thing to a QSIP is going to be a ticker.
I think of an intern. Maybe
yeah. But there's certainly cryptos that have the same ticker that are on different networks. So that's a little bit challenging from just write your 3 or 4 letter ticker.
Sales traction ID number.
Well, where's that box at? Because it's probably not big enough for what crypto would have as a transaction.
Yeah, it's 11A. They give you a whole line.
Okay, it might fit in that. Some of them are very, very long.
Transfer in tax ID number, 12A.
Yeah, I mean,
how do you know their tax ID number? Is that's not
no, that's not tax. That's TX ID. So transfer in the transaction ID. So that would exist. That's public.
That's public. Okay.
Yeah. So here's the thing. It's like they're asking for some information that does exist in crypto, other stuff that obviously doesn't apply currently. And at the end of the day, taxes in crypto are already difficult.
Yeah.
And then you're going to add this in. It's going to be challenging. There's an opportunity for somebody to write some good software here.
This will be advantage to being on like a Coinbase or something like that, because this stuff it'll
get done for you.
Will get done for you. But if you're out there on your own, this could be difficult.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to find somebody who specializes in doing that.
Even if you can gather your information, you've been doing it your own, and then you have to go find your CPA and then have to figure out this is a sit down meeting. This is not let me just shoot this in an email. So this is just another representation of how early and young the space is going through this kind of stuff. And, in some ways this is good to see. That means we're making progress. So,
yeah, I think, yeah. Well, it goes back to square box, go try to pull it into a round hole. I
mean, QSIP number. There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, everyone has to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your CPA learns more, you're learning more. That's how all this evolves.
Mm-hmm. In my understanding is the IRS has not been as nearly as overt and challenging to work with as the SEC has been.
Yeah.
I mean, both government agencies of sorts here. But there are nonprofit organizations up in DC that are paid for by the industry in different ways to help do education. So there's the ability for them to be like smarter about these things.
Right.
And I think in some sense, they're just kind of like keeping an arm's length approach of, oh, you're for crypto, so you must be trying to be doing all the bad things. So we don't want your education, be my guess.
Right.
Unfortunately.
I don't know. IRS, they're probably understaffed, I guess. I don't know.
They could take some of the enforcement attorneys from the SEC because they got too many of those.
Right. I just think, I don't know. If you inherited an IRA right now under the 10-year rule, they can't decide if you're supposed to take RMDs during the 10 years, if you can just wait till the 10th year.
Huh.
It's like, so then now they're so unorganized about it that they can't, they've already, if you didn't take an RMD last year, then you're in the clear. They've already cleared you for this year if you didn't take an RMD from your inherited IRA. So this is not surprising. They have bigger issues. The problem with the IRS sometimes, just like you see with the SEC and Congress and everyone else, is each agency's like, I feel like trying to say, no, I'm in charge of this. Mm-hmm. And so Congress basically said, hey, it's Secure 2.0. If you inherit an IRA, you have 10 years to pull the money out. End of story. And the IRS goes, no. You have to have an RMD. But that's not what's in the legislation. So now Congress needs to clarify that what we meant was
XYZ.
Nothing until the 10th year,
right.
Or as you pull it out. So something like this in crypto is not surprising when it's not super clear on something. So.
Unfortunately.
But if they show up at your door, you just say, yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's
right. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Here's my QSPIT number for my my XRP.
But yes.
Right. All right, Robert. Enjoyed it. Thanks for coming back on. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in learning more about Wiser Wealth Management or schedule a consultation, meet with one of our fiduciary financial advisors. You can do so by going to wiserinvestor.com. You can learn more about Robert and Teton Crypto Capital by going to
TetonCryptoCapital.com.
And it's in the show notes as well. Episode 216 might be of interest to you. What are alternative investments and should you be invested in them? We did that recently. Episode 211. We did a crypto technology update talking about ChatGPT, Gemini, which is now Bard. We talked a little bit about FTX, Ethereum, Bitcoin. That's episode 211. You can, this is episode 220, which is crazy. But anyway, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to a Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss any new episodes. We'd also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out.
This episode was produced by Edward Resendez.